My daughter aligned with my unfaithful ex, excluding me entirely for an entire year and swallowing every falsehood until, at last, reality erupted. Let's dive straight into the saga. My daughter Jenny, a 17-year-old girl, abruptly cut off all words with me, a 44-year-old man, amid the chaos of my divorce. I was completely baffled by the sudden silence, and shockingly, during the legal tug-of-war, custody slipped away from me because she adamantly declared a preference for her mother, my ex-wife Cheryl, aged 42, over me. She claimed it was simply due to a closer bond with her mother than with me, but that explanation rang hollow, for Jenny had consistently rallied on my side. That sudden reversal came without warning or rationale. I never unraveled its mystery, as she swiftly packed up and resettled with her mother once the custody fight erupted, conversing with me solely over urgent matters. My heart shattered repeatedly as I attempted to reclaim her loyalty, but she was unwavering, insisting that her sole desire was to reside with her mother. Eventually, after the divorce, I ceased my pleas. Though I retained visitation privileges, she flatly refused any meetings, declaring that, in light of events with her mother, she no longer wished to see me. I couldn't fathom her meaning, for I had done nothing wrong. It was Cheryl who betrayed me, igniting our divorce. When I sought clarification, she shut me out, even blocking my attempts to visit Cheryl's new place. Cheryl informed me that I was not permitted entry, and despite my legal right to see my daughter, I was utterly deprived of even a glimpse or conversation with her for nearly a full year. And yet, amidst the isolation, hope flickered in an unexpected moment. I contemplated returning to the courtroom to battle for her custody, yet I resisted, unwilling to subject my daughter to another emotionally draining legal war. So, despite the deep hurt of our separation, I swallowed my pain in silence. Then, just days ago, Jenny appeared at my doorstep, luggage in tow, and without hesitation, she enveloped me in a massive, heartfelt embrace the moment I swung open the door. I refrained from questioning, simply inviting her in as overwhelming joy flooded me after an entire year spent apart from my only child. But the reunion was only the beginning of a deeper revelation. We settled down in a quiet corner, and after some time, she confided the real reason for siding with Cheryl and abandoning me, revealing that her mother had spun tales depicting me as emotionally volatile, prone to minor yet harsh verbal outbursts when she wasn't present. To bolster her narrative, she displayed a text conversation where I urged my wife to don a sweater for a work gathering, omitting the full context, making it seem controlling instead of a gesture of genuine concern. I explained to Cheryl that a sweater was necessary due to the biting cold, as her flimsy jacket offered scant protection, yet she twisted my words, claiming I sought to dictate her attire and curb any unwarranted male interest. Next came a screenshot capturing an argument, where I confronted her for overly friendly flirting with a friend of mine right before my eyes. She countered, insisting it was mere amiability and that I had misinterpreted her actions, yet my memory of that moment burned with anger, leading me to respond harshly, a moment Cheryl exploited to portray herself as the victim and me as unjustly irate. Numerous additional messages, all plucked from context by Cheryl, piled up. No wonder that after around 9 or 10 such instances, Jenny was persuaded that I was indeed the very man her mother depicted, rather than the father she had cherished for 16 years, leaving me without an opportunity to reveal the truth. I felt a deep disappointment that she trusted her mother's fabrications, yet, being merely 16 and impressionable, despite having once enjoyed a closer bond with me and a decent rapport with her mother, I cannot entirely fault her for accepting those lies, especially when she was presented with so-called evidence, albeit misleading messages stripped of context, and numerous other criticisms of me that weren't confined to text. After I recounted all of this to Jenny, Cheryl swayed her into believing that she had betrayed me solely because I had pushed her to it, that she had engaged in an affair with a coworker, a revelation I uncovered nearly 7 months later when she left her phone behind in a restroom. That moment marked the final rupture of our marriage. Even until that breaking point, Jenny had stood with me. However, one day, Cheryl cunningly persuaded her to embrace a distorted, unflattering version of me, thus turning her allegiance entirely. Using sly tactics, she orchestrated Jenny's shift outside of the courtroom, never mentioning these matters in the presence of lawyers, thus evading detection of her schemes, and in just a few days, Jenny had abandoned my side for Cheryl's, paving the way for her custody win. She needed not even struggle fiercely, for she had already invested deeply in winning Jenny over, and now my daughter herself refused to reside with me. Grudgingly, I admit she maneuvered the situation with remarkable cunning. Yet the truth would soon shatter the carefully constructed facade. Regrettably, after nearly a year of silence, Jenny finally pieced together the puzzle, having overheard Cheryl instructing her cousin, amid a divorce, to employ similar tactics with her own child, mirroring what she had done to Jenny. Upon hearing this, everything made sense, and without alerting Cheryl, she simply departed, leaving behind a note stating she was off to a friend's sleepover to spare me any repercussions. After she recounted everything, I informed her that she would henceforth reside with me, and she appeared delighted, perhaps anticipating my anger for her year-long disappearance, yet I felt no blame towards her, only towards the 42-year-old woman who exploited a vulnerable, grieving teenager during the turmoil of our divorce. I phoned my divorce lawyer, explaining the unfolding situation and my uncertainty on how to retaliate legally, only for him to advise that her actions constituted intentional parental alienation, a charge that would be simpler to substantiate given her own admission, necessitating a petition for full custody and a revision of our custody agreement so that Jenny could finally live with me, serving our purpose. I instructed him to expedite the paperwork, and he promptly did. Then, 2 days later, Jenny informed me that her mother had bombarded her with calls, inquiring about her whereabouts, having even contacted a friend's home to determine when the sleepover would conclude, but finding her absent, Cheryl grew furious, demanding answers, already suspecting that Jenny was likely with me. Concluding that further concealment was futile given that my attorney would soon contact her, I called and declared that Jenny now resided with me, and I had overheard her manipulative remarks. Though she feigned innocence, I was no dupe. I recounted every out-of-context screenshot she had exploited to sway Jenny, and I flatly warned her that I would secure custody and that another civil suit, be it for slander or defamation, was imminent due to her baseless accusations. Fury overtook me, and without much restraint, I unleashed my words. Suddenly, Cheryl and I erupted into a shouting match over my mention of a further civil suit. She fumed that, aside from my attempt to snatch her daughter, I had no right to pursue legal action, deeming her objections utterly absurd, as I believed it was the bare minimum retribution I deserved. After our explosive call, I severed the connection and avoided my phone for hours, too numb to converse with her or anyone. I then strolled out to clear my mind, leaving Jenny alone at home for about 30 minutes. Upon my return, I found Cheryl in the living room, with Jenny seated across from her, tears welling in her eyes. Jenny's tear-streaked face ignited my fury, for I sensed that Cheryl had berated her over her actions for which Cheryl had no right to reprimand our daughter. I lost control, and soon, after instructing Jenny to retreat to her room so her mother and I could converse, we plunged into a torrential screaming match. The bizarre twist was that her rage wasn't solely about Jenny. She was clashing with me over her belief that a civil lawsuit was over the top and financially unsustainable. Following the outburst, she collapsed into tears, confessing that she had lost her job months earlier after ending her affair, a secret scandal exposed by her ex-lover. Now, jobless and financially strained, she oddly welcomed the truth's exposure, as it meant Jenny would move in with me, thereby easing expenses. I was stunned that she prioritized money and career over her daughter, and so, after her brief emotional collapse, I calmly informed her that she was the worst mother imaginable, deserving every legal repercussion headed her way. Following that, I requested her departure, and she left, yet, subsequently, she bombarded me with texts accusing me of being a total jerk for initiating a lawsuit over what she claimed was mere pettiness and revenge. I don't consider my actions petty at all, though I wonder if perhaps I should temper my vengeance, as I really have no need to inflict further pain upon her. Jenny will now reside with me, exactly as I'd long desired, but my yearning for Cheryl's accountability remains. So, am I the asshole for suing my ex-wife, even though she's prepared to relinquish custody after deceiving our daughter about me? Update 1. Hi guys. The battle lines are drawn, and the consequences are yet to unfold. I'm not moving forward with that civil lawsuit. I sifted through the online comments. Most folks saw nothing wrong with my actions, but honestly, I've decided to wrap up the custody battle first before even considering legal retribution against my ex-wife. Revenge has no place right now. It's my daughter's well-being that must come first. The less I have to interact with Cheryl in any way, the better it will be for both of us. I instructed my attorney to cancel the slander suit, yet the custody modification proceeds. She's already been formally served, and we're set to meet the mediator in a few days. My daughter has sent every piece of evidence I need. When I asked if she preferred sharing custody with her mother, she firmly replied no, she wanted full custody with me, especially after what transpired the other day. Jenny apologized profusely for leaving without explanation. Apparently, when Cheryl visited recently, she was cruel to Jenny for moving to my place without notifying her. I'd returned just 10 minutes after her arrival, and in that brief span, Cheryl managed to unload a tirade, berating Jenny for being ungrateful and selfish throughout this messy divorce and custody ordeal. She claimed Jenny was hurting both her and me, and while that might be partly true, it was clear Cheryl's aim was to gaslight Jenny into believing the blame was hers. I'm recounting this now in far more measured terms than I truly felt, yet there's no mistaking the brutality in Cheryl's tone, a tone that shocked me, especially after more than 20 years of marriage. I know exactly how vicious she can be, and I'm relieved our daughter has returned to me, for it's obvious that Cheryl cares more about trivialities than truly being a good mother. And so, with heavy resignation, this chapter closes, but the story is far from over. Then, an unforeseen yet not entirely shocking twist unfolded. Cheryl declared she would relinquish all custody rights to our daughter. This revelation stunned both my attorney and me, leaving us grasping for what to do next. I was utterly taken aback that she would follow through, for I'd always believed she still harbored even a flicker of maternal love for Jenny, until now. She now appears determined solely to live independently and save money. It seems strange, even though she's between jobs, losing one position shouldn't condemn her to a lifetime of financial ruin. I just can't understand why she'd make such a permanent decision, terminating her parental rights over what seems to be a passing phase. Even if she had chosen merely to maintain visiting rights, the cost to Jenny would have been minimal. Yet, since Jenny has made it abundantly clear that she wants to live with me and not her mother, it's astonishing how quickly she abandoned her own child. A nagging suspicion whispers that there's more to this situation than Cheryl has let on. Remember, she once held a high-ranking position at a reputable firm, earning well and saving diligently. 3 months out of work shouldn't have drained her savings to nothing. Jenny confirmed that even after a year living with her, Cheryl never began living like a millionaire. Although doubts and theories swirl in my mind, none seem likely enough to explain it all. I can only count my lucky stars that I now have full custody of Jenny without having to endure yet another bitter legal battle like last year. Strange as it seems, perhaps this outcome is a bittersweet kind of good news. Today, in an emotionally charged and heart-wrenching moment, Cheryl signed away her parental rights. The atmosphere was tense and awful, and Jenny has been inconsolable all day, yet there was little any of us could do to change the pain of the moment. Before leaving, Cheryl embraced Jenny and pressed a final kiss to her forehead, a farewell that, it seems, will be the last we ever share. I don't like Cheryl, and I certainly don't trust her after everything she's done to tear this family apart. Still, despite her many wrongs, she was once the heart of this family, and those memories make it hard to completely forget the good times. Both Jenny and I feel the loss deeply, yet we cling to each other, hoping that together we can weather these stormy times. I've been mentally preparing for this day for a long while, but nothing could have softened the blow when it finally arrived. It feels surreal that Jenny will no longer be legally tied to Cheryl, and though my emotions are in disarray, my primary worry remains for my daughter. She's too young and fragile to endure all this upheaval, and it just doesn't seem right. Now, I have monumental news, a truth so big it makes you want to scream in frustration. Today, I met with someone unexpectedly linked to Cheryl, her second cousin. We only discovered this connection after we began dating, since Cheryl was never close to her own family, having been raised solely by her mother. This friend, related to her on her father's side, who passed away when she was 7, and I go way back to high school, long before I even knew Cheryl. Over lunch, I tried to avoid discussing the tangled saga of Cheryl, Jenny, and our fractured family, but when my friend asked about my emotional state, the story spilled out. I recounted the whirlwind of the past few weeks, a subject too raw to have discussed in detail before, even with my parents or my attorney, whose legal mind always steers conversations back to strategy. For the first time, I opened up to a friend, and I felt so grateful for that relief. As I described how Cheryl had surrendered custody of Jenny and signed away her rights, claiming it was because she lost her job and needed to save money, my friend's confused look made me pause and ask why. He explained that his concern arose from seeing Cheryl's Facebook posts, photos of her vacationing on a sun-drenched beach with her boyfriend. It became clear that Cheryl had played me for a fool. In all likelihood, she hadn't lost her job or been dumped. Instead, it was a cheap, sickening, and pathetic scheme to force Jenny back into my care. I was floored when my friend showed me images of her laughing merrily aboard a yacht, behavior utterly out of place for someone supposedly struggling financially. I wouldn't have seen those posts on my own since Jenny and I were both blocked from her account, and during the divorce, all our mutual friends sided with me. After all, she cheated on me. Yet, somehow, Cheryl hadn't completely cut me off, as her cousin still lingered in her contacts. Disgust overwhelmed me as I realized she had deliberately avoided the responsibilities of parenting Jenny. Had that been her intent, she could have simply told me, and I would have welcomed Jenny without hesitation. But no, she cast herself as the victim, stooping to such low depths that I was left speechless when I saw her post. My friend and I sat in silence, each trying to process the betrayal. I tried to find excuses for her behavior, but I couldn't. I'd endured enough in these past few months. I remember all too well the devastation on the day Jenny relinquished her parental rights, and now I learn it was nothing but an elaborate lie to shield Cheryl's own selfish interests. I don't know what to do next, especially because I must eventually tell Jenny the truth, a truth that I fear will break her heart, but one she undoubtedly deserves to know. Just a couple of hours ago, I finally told my daughter everything. To my astonishment, she took the news with a calm maturity that seemed to come overnight. After I laid out the painful details, she simply shrugged, remarking that it no longer mattered to her. She had already cut ties with her mother the moment she left home to return to me and apologize, and the day Cheryl signed away her rights was, for her, the final straw. Now, regardless of whatever lies or deception Cheryl might spin, they hold no sway over her. If Cheryl had truly wished to abandon us, she should have been honest from the start. Jenny would never have forced her way into Cheryl's life, nor would I have ever demanded child support. I've always managed on my own, supporting our family long before Cheryl reappeared. And so, that's it. We're not pursuing any further legal action against her. We're simply choosing to let it all go.